Welcome back everybody to another MOTOBOB video from EICMA in Milan, the biggest and best trade show of the motorcycling calendar, and we're back at Honda today for a look at this, the new NC750X. Now this is a big seller for Honda, so it's a really important update, and there are plenty of interesting tweaks across the bike that make it even more practical and usable than before, which was one of its biggest selling points. So here we go with absolutely everything that you need to know about it. Now, as you might have noticed from the bike behind me, it has had a little bit of a styling update. You can see it's got a new headlight, new bodywork, and they say it gives it a bit more of a tough image, so it's got a bit more of that adventure bike look. And look, it's still not exactly an Africa twin in terms of visual appeal, but I will say it is a nice little update versus the previous generation. On top of that though, in terms of the bodywork and panels, some of it is now made from DuraBio, which is an organic material, and also they've used recycled panels across some of the rest of the bike, and so that's one of their pushes towards sustainability and something that we're seeing on more and more Honda models this year. Now look, one of the really appealing things about this bike, like I say, is the fact that it's super practical and usable. They sell boatloads of them as like commuters and things like that, and one of the things that people really like about it, and I know this from riding it as well, is the fact that it's got a big storage compartment located in the bike, so no need for a separate top box or side cases, and it'll take a full-size adventure helmet, they say, because it's 23 litres in capacity. As with before, you can still spec it with a USB socket to keep your devices charged up when you're on the move as well. You can stick them in there and plug them in, and so like I say, a really good standout practical feature. In the cockpit though, new for 2025, we've now got a 5-inch colour TFT display on this bike, which pulls it in line with some of the other bikes in their lineup. Now, I think given the price, which we'll get onto later in this video, it really is a nice feature and does give it a lift in terms of what it's going to feel like to ride this bike and the sort of perceived quality of it. On top of that, it comes with connectivity features that are part of that dash, so you'll see this dash on other bikes like the 750 Hornet and Transalp, and that means if you use the Honda RoadSync app, you can get turn-by-turn navigation, you can get calls and messaging and media playback and control them with the new switch gear. And so if you like the idea of having all that stuff integrated in the dash, then this might look like a worthwhile upgrade. Now, before we get onto the next bit of the bike, I just want to say a huge thanks to DJI for supporting the channel and making this EICMA coverage possible. For the Bob Cam, with which I was showing you the dash, we're using their latest and greatest Osmo Action 5 Pro, and this is the camera we use back home to record all of our rides and reviews, and we absolutely love it. It's nice and small, has great image quality, fantastic class-leading battery life, and also a brilliant magnetic mounting system that makes it easy to get on your helmet or stick on a mount on the bike and move around. Genuinely, if you're looking for a brilliant camera to record your rides and capture them and share them on social or share them with your friends, then this is the one we'd recommend, so do check out the links down in the description below. And once again, a massive thanks to DJI for supporting us and making our EICMA videos possible. Now, there are no huge changes to the engine, so it's still this long stroke parallel twin that's not particularly exciting, but it does have, like I say, some practical benefits. That's definitely the theme of this bike. So 57 horsepower peak at 6,750 RPM, which isn't masses for a 750, but it does make a healthy 69 Newton meters of peak torque at 4,750, and in my experience, it's really strong down low and pulls really well. Also, it does, to be fair, get a 270-degree crank, which gives it a little bit of that V-twin or Africa twin sound and feel, so that's definitely a tick for me. For 2025, of course, they've had to update it to get it to comply with the latest Euro 5B or Euro 5 Plus emissions regulations, so that's some of the work that they've done, and it is still ridiculously fuel efficient. If you want a good commuter, you don't want to be spending loads of money on petrol, and this one does 3.5 or 3.6 litres per 100 kilometers, which is really at the very efficient end for something like a 750cc parallel twin. As for the modes, well, you've still got 4, so there's rain, road and sport, and naturally that's going to vary the throttle response, the level of engine braking, the level of traction control, and there's also a custom slot with which you can choose your own settings for those particular rider aids, and there are things like 3 levels of traction control to choose from. But look, another practical reason to buy this bike is the fact that it's offered with DCT or dual clutch transmission, which is their automatic gearbox effectively, and you can run this bike in either an auto mode or manual, and that means if you're commuting in stop-start traffic, then it's a very easy twist and go bike to ride. There's no clutch to operate. Thing is, though, I will say It is a little bit of a handful sometimes at lower speeds, especially with some of the larger bikes with DCT. The fact that you don't have a manual clutch to finesse your low speed maneuvers does mean that you're relying on purely the throttle response, and especially for a bike like this that is built for an urban context, at least partly, you know, that can be a little bit tricky and maybe off-putting for some riders. Now, the DCT systems on some of the 1100 bikes, so the Africa Twin, the NT 1100, the Rebel 1100, have all had updates that have tried to target this sort of riding, and so they've redesigned the clutch, they've redesigned the throttle and given them more finesse at lower speeds. So the throttle has a specific map that operates at lower speeds, and that means it's a little bit more controlled, but also the way that they've redeveloped the clutch means that it's actually smoother to move away and come to a stop. And when you do pull away on some of the older bikes, there is a little bit of a noticeable jolt. So this should be a much more pleasant and easy to use bike, like I say, for commutes and riding in the city. As for the chassis, we've got the same tubular steel frame, 41mm upside down fork. There's a preload adjustable shock at the rear. It's still around about 800mm in the seat height, which is nice and easy to get on with for that sort of riding. I think it's gone up by 2mm to 802, but not enough of a difference to have any meaningful effect on the riding experience. And the weight still comes in at 214 kilograms for the manual version, and I think it's 224 for the DCT version, so another 10 kilograms. There are some updates to the hardware and stuff though, like the braking. So on the previous generation, you have the two-part axially mounted caliper on a single 320mm disc, whereas this version now gets twin discs. They're a little bit smaller at 296, but yeah, you've got two of the two-part axially mounted calipers. So hopefully a little bit better braking performance, although you would expect a pair of discs to add a little bit of weight versus the previous generation, but they've offset it, they say, with a new, lighter wheel set. They call it a 3x3 cast aluminium design, and they say that they've shed 1.8 kilograms across the entire wheel set. So yeah, that pretty much cancels out any weight gains for that new braking system. And also it's worth pointing out that that is rotating mass, and so perhaps this bike will feel a little bit more nimble on its feet and flickable and agile versus that previous generation. Now, I do quite like this red version that we've got behind us, but there are 4 new colorways for 2025, so I'll read them out for you because the names are always a little bit indulgent, let's say, from Honda. So we've got Earth Ivy Ash Green with graphite black trim, Earth Black with matte beta silver metallic trim, Matte Pearl Glare White with graphite black trim, and then Fighting Red with the graphite black trim. So I think that basically translates to black, white, a sort of khaki green color, and then this red one behind me. Let me know what you'd pick though down in the comments below. Now, no price as of yet, but for 2023 this was a really affordable bike. So the base model, the manual version, was £6,999, which you've got to say it's a lot of bike for your money, and then the DCT version was £7,799, so an 800 quid premium. But if you are looking for an auto motorcycle, then that really is a very good proposition. Now look, it might go up a little bit year over year or year over 2 years because of the fact that you've got the better brakes, you know, bike prices are going up generally, and also you've got that much better dash in the cockpit, but still I wouldn't imagine it's going to be a huge amount above that, because that is one of the key selling points and an important part of its positioning in the market is the price and the fact that you can get a great, practical, usable bike for not too much money. So, scores on the doors for this one. I'll go 2 out of 5 for performance. It's not super powerful, but you know, upgraded brakes and it's got good torque, so it's a decent bike to ride. 3 out of 5 now for features. It's not heavily techy. There's no like radars or anything really advanced like that, or a 6-axis inertial measurement unit to make it lean sensitive on the rider aids. But you've got that dash now, the new switchgear and the connectivity, which should suit a commuter style bike where you might want nav or to be able to handle your phone. Styling, I've gone 2 out of 5. It's not really my cup of tea. I will say it's better than the previous generation, but I don't think drop dead gorgeous looks are ever the intention with this bike. But price, you've got to say, for what you're getting and how, especially considering you can get that DCT version for not that much more, I think you've got to say it does represent good affordability and good value for money. Now that gives it 12 out of 20, which is one of the lower scores, but I will say, you know, it's probably not going to be the most exciting bike of the show, but it's still probably going to sell absolutely boatloads of units, and I do think it looks like a good evolution versus that previous generation. As always though, I'd love to know what you think of it, so do let us know down in the comments below. I'll also put our playlist on the the screen now so you can see all of our videos from here at EICMA, and we'll be adding a few more over the next couple of days. Hit subscribe if you want to see them as soon as they go live. And also, we're heading to Motorcycle Live in the UK just a week after this show, so there'll be plenty of coverage of the new bikes from there as well. A massive thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next video.